we have yet to meet. Please introduce yourself tonight. That would be great. And welcome to the January/February 5th grade concert. This is an enormous evening, and obviously this is their first concert. Today, it's me too. This is also my first 5th grade concert. So I'm probably as excited as they are. Today I was thinking that they're going to do 30 to 35 performances between tonight and graduating high school here in Old Saybrook. And that's a bare minimum. That's if they didn't do select groups or whatnot. And tonight's the first one. This is pretty outstanding. This will be the only concert that will be like this one. This one's going to be different, which is fine. It would be unfair to them if I just had them get up here and play what they could play and have you clap, because it doesn't give any representation of where they came from, where they started, and what they've accomplished. There will be no other period in their band life that they will accomplish what they accomplished from August 27th to today. It just won't happen again. And I want you to live through it. So we're going to walk you through the fall. You have to understand, they knew virtually nothing, right? And we had to teach so much stuff, and they've done just an amazing job. Now, honestly, I don't have anything to really compare it to, that's fair. But they've really blown away my expectation. I mean, first of all, I got 60 plus of them sit behind me, I assume behaving. They're doing pretty well. You know, they've just really risen to everything. They have a great spirit about them. They work hard. They laugh at themselves a lot. I told them right from the get-go, we're going to make a lot of funny sounds for a very, very long time, and that's okay. They don't seem to be getting discouraged by stuff, and they have just a great energy about it. Okay, so first thing that we had to deal with, one thing. Tonight has to be really supportive of that. I'm going to ask you to clap a ton. Maybe not a long time at any given time, but very often. Whenever they achieve something that you may not have thought 5th graders could do, I want you to clap. Because the more we can encourage them, the better. And this has to be just a fun experience for them in particular. Okay, so the first rule, they have not yet been in a group of almost 70 in a room with only one other person in charge. We had our first rehearsals before we had instruments. We had our first rehearsal of Find Your Chair. They did that quite well tonight. And they have to learn how to be quiet when it's time to be quiet. This is tough. We have an expectation in Old Saybrook from here all the way through 12th grade that when, well, let me show it to you. But it was probably, you could count to maybe 6. And that's just the way we do business, of trying to deal with being together in a room and whatnot. And it's called the podium rule, and they're really good at it. So then once we got our seats, and we got to know how to be quiet, then we had to learn how to start being like an ensemble. We didn't have instruments yet, so we were going to clap. Now I know they know how to clap. They take general music, they know how to do rhythm, they know how to do that. But they're not used to doing it in a group of 60, 70 kids. And I'm going to clap when someone else is clapping, and I have to face, oh my goodness, what's going on around me? So we started doing that. Now, right now, we're going to show you. We're going to go to exercise 1, right? We're just going to give you a demo. This is like August 29th band. Okay? Now, what's funny is I bet you this is the least accurate. They struggle with this because it's so beyond, so way before what we're doing now that they almost can't throw themselves back. So I'm sure we'll have a couple little laughs on the afterwards. That's it. So this is very late August. Here we go. Clap. 1, 2. rehearsals, the clapping rehearsals we call them. And that's pretty much what they look like. It was learning how to stop and start together and whatnot. Then they got the instruments. You all remember. They were shiny. They were amazing. And the instrument is a big deal. The putting together of the instrument is an enormous deal. You know, Jack, come up. This is Jack. Jack's going to build a clarinet. Now, Jack's really good at building a clarinet right now because he's been doing it a while. But picture Jack on like September 3rd. It has a bell, a lower joint, an upper joint, a barrel. It has a mouthpiece. It has a reed. It has a ligature. You put the reed on wrong, it doesn't make any noise. It's broken. It's not broken. It's just not put together right. This took, and now Jack's doing it quite quickly, this took 2 class periods for the clarinet players, for the alto saxophones. 1 class period was building just what he's doing on top with the mouthpiece and the reed. So it took an hour. It took 12 school days. Put that in perspective, because we have every 12 school days to do what Jack's doing. He's doing a fine job of it now. Then that's no small feat. That's tough. I mean, just the fine motor of it and getting it together just right is really, and if they don't do it, they go home, it doesn't work, and oh, the tears, I quit, man. And it's just because they didn't put it together right. Thank you, Jack. Good job. Now, the video is going to demonstrate how not everybody has the same challenges. So here is what a brass player goes through to assemble their instrument. That's good. Good job. I did that kind of tongue-in-cheek, but there's a reality that we're trying to get this band to move at the same rate, and all of a sudden we have a 15-second process and a 60-minute process to deal with, right? But trust me, the brass had their issues. The brass parents know. They go home, they plug them in the mouthpiece, it's a little strange, you know, things as such. Okay, so we built the instruments. Well, let's pretend we didn't totally build the instrument, because it took us 2 weeks' time in which to do that, and we still had band every other day. We all learned how to build our mouthpiece. So now we're at, like, you know, September 10th, September 15th, and they have their mouthpieces built. This was Miss Jukowicz's favorite time of year. We did what were called mouthpiece rehearsals. Okay, so they have yet to build their instruments, at least all of them enough, so we can't rehearse with the instruments. Therefore, we do mouthpiece rehearsals. So this is what the mouthpiece rehearsal would sound like. So we're going to do the same thing we did for you before clapping, but we're going to do it on the mouthpieces. Here you go. It's okay. I tell them, we're going to laugh, we got to laugh at stuff. And I mean, there were loud rehearsals and whatnot, and my goodness. All right, then we finally built the instrument. They were just jumping out of their skin when they came in today, and they knew they could put it together, and we could play number 1 on the horns. So now you can hear the, here they go. Same thing that we clapped, that we made 20 notes of mouthpieces. This is on the instrument. You may have noticed, we'll talk about this again a little bit later, but hey, French horns, hold up your horns. Hold your horn up. Okay, those are French horns. They actually have to learn their beginning time. You can put it down there. They're kind of like, you have high instruments and low, and they're kind of in the middle. Their starting pitches are not the starting pitches of everybody else in the band. It's a brutal job. When we play a note, they play a different one. And I don't know if you've heard it, but there's like this little sound over here that doesn't sound like everybody else, and it's right. So they've actually had their entire beginning time playing different notes that sound different than everybody else. So as we're playing today, you're hearing, why is there always that one sound coming out that isn't? That's them, and they're right. So they've done a really good job with that. Okay, then we learned notes. Well, that was one note. We learned 3 notes. And we had to play some of them now back to back for whole notes, so 4 beats long each, and have them go back to back. Because have you heard in that one, it was like play, and then collect your brain, and then play, and then collect your brain. But now it's back to back. So here they are doing that. So this is probably maybe, I don't know, end of September, beginning of October or so. Here it is. And they're going to change on every beat. This like blew them apart. This is like, oh my goodness, we can't believe how tricky that is. So here they are doing quarter notes in motion. The understanding is the baton, and maybe you don't know, but the baton actually has a purpose. The conductor isn't just looking at me. But there's a whole language that goes with baton, and we start learning it. They learn that if I'm here, that's the first beat. If I'm over here, that's the second beat. If they look up and I'm over here, well, that's the third beat of the bar, that's the fourth beat of the bar. And it's how we start to communicate. We also stop counting them in at this point. We just play. And this is what's going to be expected of them as they go all the way through, and they can do it right now. So now we're going to play, this was our first song. And of course, your first song should be High Cross Lines, right? Everybody's first song. And with the baton. So 5 notes, first song with baton. Next step forward would be to have maybe more quarter notes and have it skipping around and less resting. And that's what kind of happens. If things start to get longer and maybe a little more complicated and start jumping around. So here is a Claire de la Lune. But Jingle Bells was a big leap for us, and we did have it done, I believe it was the front end of December, maybe middle of December. So here's Jingle Bells. Wenceslas. The issue here, they have a little theme going. The book kind of knows what time of year you're going to be doing this. This one has no resting, so they just play all the way through. And it's the first time, I believe, right? Yeah, it's the first time they have to deal with a repeat. So that they play the whole line and then they repeat it again, so their eyes have to go back to the beginning and play it again. But the biggest issue here is that it's all a lot of quarter notes and there's no rest in between. So here's Wenceslas. Okay. Okay, now the next task we had was to start having them play different parts than other people in the band. Right now, everything they've done, this is all the way almost through Christmas, everything that they've done has been with the same as everybody in the room. So now we had to deal with a round, and a round is when half the band's playing and the other half is like chasing it along, right? And it's like row, 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 your boat. We do the donkey round. This is really tricky. This was really hard for them. They're going to do fine tonight, but to not move when half the band moves and you're not supposed to is a really tricky thing to do. So here's the donkey round. Okay, then things just keep getting harder. This is dreidel dreidel, which is quarter notes, so one beat each, but they skip. So they're not going in scale. They're not going to the next one up or the next one down, but they have to skip back and forth for dreidel dreidel. Early January. We've learned our 6th note now. We also learned something called a tie. It's when you hold a note longer than the measure says, and you go into the next measure, and it ties into the next bar. So optically it's tricky because you see the bar line, but you're not supposed to tongue the next note. But more importantly, it's their 6th note. So here is Mary Ann, and you're going to notice that things are now getting a bit longer. So Mary Ann. skips, it has the 6th note, it has ties, it has everything that they've done up to date. So here's Shoe Fly. Okay, maybe last week we got here now. We're at 8th notes. So we had half the whole notes cut in half, the half notes cut in half, the quarter notes cut in half, to now 8th notes. Twice as many in the measure, twice as fast. We're not moving them yet, we're repeating them. So this is right on the edge now. This is a little scary. So here is Violin Cabbage Den. Okay, we're getting there. Okay, so next step was, now we have to start going towards band music. We have to start going towards concert music. That was all learning our instruments and whatnot. Our first step is to do a full duet. Now we did the donkey round, it wasn't round, it wasn't duet technically, truth. But this is much longer. They're not hearing what they played just before them or just after them. They're completely different parts. But the band right now is still only in 2 parts. So this is the, I think, folk lullaby? Yes, duet. Here it is. Okay, before we do our last piece, that's what everything is leading up to, I do have some thank yous to give tonight. First, I'd like to thank our superintendent Bruccio. I'd like to thank Mandy Ryan and Matt Walton. They've been just really outstanding with supporting the instrumental program in general, and also really finding out what we do. This is kind of what we do, but next year it gets a little more cerebral. We start doing things a little bigger with our brains, but they've just been terrific, and I appreciate that a ton. And I'd also like to thank the 5th grade team. They've been great. I got to yank all these kids out of class like a couple times a day. So they've been really super duper about working with us with flexibility and supporting us and reminding them to bring their stuff home and whatnot. So they've been just outstanding. I'd also like to thank Peg Smith. She's the one who catches my emails and then sends them to you. And they usually bounce back to me. Say, maybe you should say this different. So she's been really useful in helping me communicate with all of you. She's really terrific. I'd like to thank the custodial staff too. They're always here to help. They always have a smile on. Really terrific. I want to thank the parents doing the little reception and invite you all to come into the cafeteria afterwards. You know, it's a big night. It's their first concert. Let's have a little cupcake or something. I'd like to thank Lauren Harris for putting all that together for me. I appreciate that. I'd like to thank all of you, the parents. Just even financially, I mean, this is a big deal. That you've gotten to support them in this kind of way is outstanding. To come out tonight and to do all that you do. You obviously appreciate what we're doing, and I appreciate you appreciating them and encouraging them. I'd like to also really thank them. They've done a really terrific job. They come in, they're ready to work. I'm really impressed by this. Okay, last piece. This is like a band piece now. This is what we do. From here on out, this is all we'll do in front of you. If you want to see something different, come on in. You can see a rehearsal. But this is what we do. So everyone has now different parts. There's 2 different clarinet parts, 2 different trumpet parts, and we have added percussion. Everyone's like, I want to be a drummer, I want to be a drummer, I want to be a drummer. Okay, drumming starts in 6th grade. 5th grade is for trying it. I want to do it, you try it. I didn't like that. Better find out now. I'm afraid of it, I might want to do it. Try it. I loved it. Good to know. At the end of this year, we're going to have an audition, because if we have 30 kids back there, it's just going to be like spitball fest, right? We can't, it's unfair to them, it's unfair to all of them. So we'll have somewhat of an audition. If they want to do it, I'm encouraging them as the year goes on to try to jump in. So my drummers on every piece for the rest of this year will never be the same. They're going to try it, and then some other kids are going to try it. Every piece, they're going to try it, they're going to try it if they want to try it. And then at the end of the year, they can come in and try to audition for it. So I have 2 drummers. I actually had 3. I lost a few kids to sickness today. And so I lost one of my drummers, which is kind of sad. That's kind of like losing a wheel on a bus. So I'm actually going to go back and make sure the bus doesn't crash. And I'll help it along. Because the percussion is a really new thing to us, and it really has been what we're focused on, so I think it's just safe so everybody lands here with a smile. I've run the band from the back plenty of times, so it's going to be fun. So this is what band is going to sound like from here forward, just getting a little more complex, but they're really excited to do this. So here's Centurion. I want to thank you again for coming, and I hope to see you all when we get back into the cafeteria. Thank you very much.